English essay on my journey to America essay. Wow, here I am. I finally made it to Los Angeles. I thought to myself. As we made our way through the airport customs checkpoint, the officer had let my husband go through, but stopped me for further inspection. I was extremely nervous and worried what if they denied my entry. Eventually, the officer approved for me to pass. However, I had lost sight of my husband. I ran around the baggage claim area to search for him, still I couldn't locate him. I sat down in the corner, looked all over the place and asked myself, what am I doing here? Unexpectedly, I felt the floor was shaking and got stronger in every second. I suddenly opened my eyes and realized that I just had a nightmare. It was an early morning that I woke up with the sun ray shining on my face and the sound of birds singing their usual wake-up songs. My dog was barking as if she was chatting to one another, and I could smell the foods in the kitchen where my mom was making delicious breakfasts for the family. However, this was not going to be the same anymore. Of course, I was extremely happy. When I was young, the thought of going to the Americas excited me. But moving away from my country where I grew up in and leaving my family whom I loved the most behind was tough. Finally, the time for me to pack up and leave for the airport had come. My parents were in the taxi with me, as well as my husband, my aunt, my sister, and my cousin, but only my best friend, my dog, was left behind inside of my house. All my life, I had been with them. I started to get emotional and feel like I was going to leave my home forever. Though I was also curious about a new life with my husband in a totally unfamiliar country. As the taxi parked in front of the airport, I couldn't believe that the moment came. The moment when I would have to exit out the taxi, head towards the terminal, and say my final goodbyes. A lot of tears were shed, many hugs were given. At the same time, I was grateful for my husband being there with me and giving me all kinds of support, much needed one at that moment. We began our long but yet new journey to the US. I had never traveled in an airplane before. That made the trip more interesting. For a moment, my sorrow seemed to fade away through the enthusiasm. When I boarded my first international flight, I was inspired. I was on a giant airplane, and me being an airplane fanatic. When the airplane was about to take off, I was very eager with excitement at the same time. Then as I turned my head to my right towards the window, witnessing the sun was about to set, the whole skyline of Vietnam suddenly appeared in front of my eyes. The sight was mesmerizing. After a 2-hour flight, we transited into Philippines airport. Everything appeared to be so different to me. We rushed to the first port of entry to clear customs. I passed easily, but my husband did not. They requested him to take out the umbrella, a beautiful sentimental gift from my mom. I had it since I was a little girl, but for them, it looked like a harmful weapon. Since we couldn't do anything, I disappointedly threw it in a trash bin. The feeling of guilt and sadness eroded in me when I looked back at it, as though I had abandoned it there. By the time we were done, my husband and I were all exhausted and sleepy. We decided to take a nap before taking another flight. About an hour later, we packed up and caught a long flight to Los Angeles. As we all settled in the airplane completely, a passenger came and sat down next to me with a lovely smile. An old woman dressing comfortably with a pleasant appearance was about my grandmother's age. Quickly, I had a feeling of comfort and security. She, then, pulled out her Bible and began to mumble as if she was praying for this flight to make it safely to its final destination. When we were halfway to the end point, I felt like it was never going to end. Finally, after a long journey, we landed in Los Angeles. A majority of people in the plane gave a round of applause and screamed out loud, "We made it." There was a sigh of relief in my mind. "I'm glad we're still alive," I said to my husband. I couldn't wait any longer to get out of the airport and go home. My heart was filled with joy when I was standing in front of the house waiting for my husband to unload our luggages. I glanced at outside of the house, dark and quiet. Before we could reach for the door, it was slowly opening. I hurriedly leaned my head forward into the house, a sudden wildly noise from a crowd screaming, "Welcome home!" Before I could see anything. Subscribe my channel English Essay by Alexandra Daddario.